And our conversation with State Representative Jim Struzzi, brought to you by Marcus & Mack, a law firm representing injured people. And Representative Struzzi joins us in the studio. You can catch him on Facebook Live as well with us here this morning. Good morning.
Good morning, Todd.
Just back from Harrisburg. Nothing going on in the state capitol this week, huh?
Wow, it was quite a few days in Harrisburg this week, I have to tell you, with the budget, with not one but two hearings on the regional greenhouse gas initiative that I participated in. Just a whole lot of energy. The governor's budget. Where do we start?
Yeah, good place. Well, as you were telling me, we're already spending over the amount allocated for last year's budget by about $1 billion, and now he wants to add another $1 billion on there.
Yeah, I think there's multiple layers of frustration with the way the governor spends taxpayer money. What a lot of people don't realize is he spent almost $900 million beyond what we had budgeted last year. So now we already have to account for almost $1 billion in spending that wasn't allocated last year, and on top of that, he's proposing in another $1.4 billion in this new budget. So we have our work to do as the Appropriations Committee, which will start that not next week but the following week when we do the weeks of hearings for all the state departments. But we really have a work cut out for us this year, trying to get to a balanced budget when the governor puts a proposal out there that's more than $2 billion over what we expect to bring in as revenue.
Some of the things the governor calls for that have been called for in the past, increase in the minimum wage, police protection. Now his newest proposal, he couldn't get any of the other proposals through. Now he wants to tax all municipalities, even those that have their own police force. He wants to tax them for state police protection again.
Well, I think as Senator Pittman and I both stated in our comments following the budget address, it's the same old. Here we go again. The governor comes out, on the House floor on Tuesday and says no new taxes, and yet you just mentioned a new tax. He includes a severance tax in there again. He mentions the regional greenhouse gas initiative as a source of revenue. Those are taxes, and let's get down to it. So it was really frustrating to me. I mean, I'm only in my second year in office, but it was really frustrating to me to see, the way that he lays things out. He calls it a blueprint when there's really no blueprint at all. It's just more taxes and more spending.
All right, so you're going to sit down with your Democratic colleagues. You're going to hash this out over the next 6 months or so and try to come up with a viable spending plan. What was the reaction you were hearing from those on the other side of the aisle?
Well, I think, they're going to support their governor, but I do think that, let's be realistic. You can't spend what you don't have. If we tried to do that at home with our budgets and our families, it simply wouldn't add up. You couldn't pay the bills. And that's where we are right now with the state budget. We have to find a way to make revenues equal to spending. It's just ridiculous that we continue to spend more than we have. And who's going to be on the hook for that? The taxpayers. As conservative Republicans, we can't allow that to happen. The minimum wage discussion, I'm sure we'll hash that out during the appropriations hearings in a week or so. But the Senate has a proposal out there to increase the minimum wage to $9.50. No mention of that. He simply took it all the way back up to 15 again, which, as we know, would kill our small businesses here in Indiana County and across the Commonwealth. And in reality, only I believe it's 1.6% of people actually make minimum wage. So very few people are making minimum wage. There's good paying jobs out there right now, and so I don't understand the mindset for that. And they call that, and they want to attribute the increase in minimum wage to revenue. Because they think giving people more money will allow them to spend more. But in reality, you're going to see, I've heard numbers up to 30,000 jobs lost if you increase the minimum wage that dramatically. So there's a whole lot of concerns with this budget. I have my own concerns when he starts talking. I don't know where he was going with the whole talk of gun control and gun laws. You're trying to follow that when you're on the House floor, and it's preposterous that he even puts that into the budget address. And as I stated as well, we're not going to allow that to happen. We're not going to allow any red flag laws or anything like that in Pennsylvania as long as we have the majority. It's simply not going to happen.
Governor has his program called Restore Pennsylvania.
Right.
And some of the goals of Restore Pennsylvania do include things that people know need to happen, and that is highway funding, bridge funding across Pennsylvania. He touts his plan and justifies his requests as meeting some of those needs. While we know those needs need to be met, it's going to be the legislature's job to figure out how.
Yeah, and it's fiscally irresponsible. The Restore PA. It's taking out additional debt between $4 and $5 billion in debt that the state will be on the hook for. We all want to see, improved infrastructure, improved transportation, increased broadband, but we have to find another way to do it. We simply can't tax the natural gas industry when, the commodity prices are so low right now. I don't know what that will do except drive more business out of Pennsylvania. If you had the opportunity, as I mentioned, I participated in 2 hearings this week for the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative. Yeah. And the testimony was overwhelmingly negative. The impacts that they call it RGGI, will have on Pennsylvania. And it's the same thing as the severance tax. It'll push business out of the state because there are other states right next to us, West Virginia and Ohio, that are welcoming the energy industry. So if the governor continues to push these taxes on these businesses, on this industry, he's going to kill Pennsylvania's energy industry. He's going to push jobs away. He's going to suck the life out of our economy. And our economy is doing well right now. People are working. Things are going well, but you cannot continue to threaten taxes on these industries because they'll just go elsewhere.
You and Senator Pittman have both put forth legislation to stop that whole process, to get the legislature involved in any sort of regulation, certainly stop the RGGI initiative. The governor, nonetheless, this week ordered DEP to move forward with it.
Yes.
As a legislator who's got something on the table right now to fight that sort of a grab.
Yeah.
How does that make you feel?
Well, I have House Bill 2025, which basically makes the governor before the governor can do anything related to RGGI or anything like that, it requires that it be vetted through the legislature, the House and the Senate. Senator Pittman has a companion bill in the Senate that's the exact same language. But we don't think it's right that the governor can unilaterally circumvent the legislative process by issuing an executive order to enter into RGGI when it has such a vast or could have such a vast impact on Pennsylvania. And then the testimony yesterday, which is on my website, if you go to repstruzzi.com, you can see the entire hearing and segments of it. But we had representatives from Indiana County there. We had labor, management. We had environmental studies that were presented that show, and climate change is a whole different discussion. But what they showed was even if we implement RGGI, it will do nothing to affect global climate change. Nothing. All it will do is create a new tax that kills jobs, kills small towns, and ruins Pennsylvania's economy. So it's not about climate change. The governor, as I mentioned earlier, in his budget said RGGI's about revenue. It's about a new tax. So it's important that my bill and Senator Pittman's bill move forward, that the governor is required to go through the legislature to implement anything like this because we have to understand the repercussions. And I'm telling you, Todd, and everybody listening out there, you should be concerned because it will have such a detrimental impact on Indiana County and Western Pennsylvania. It's an attack on fossil fuels and it's a tax on coal, and it's not right, and it makes me angry. And I had an opportunity this week to question the DEP secretary, Patrick McDonnell, and I said exactly that. I said, what will this do, to affect climate change? And he really did not have a good answer for that.
Yeah. All right. So it takes a while for a bill to become a law.
Yes, it does.
Those bills have to make their way through the General Assembly. They have to land on the governor's desk. He has to sign it. Should he not sign it, there will be then the opportunity for an override. Meanwhile, he's pushing forward with the regulations. Is there a plan? Is a battle in the courts necessary in order to stop this?
Well, I hope it doesn't come to that. I'm hoping that the governor realizes that this is not good for Pennsylvania. If the testimony given yesterday during the House Environmental Committee hearing bears any weight, he has to open his eyes and realize that this is just bad for Pennsylvania. We're going to continue to make a lot of noise about it. I know that all the groups that testified yesterday are continuing to rally. We need people to state their concerns here locally. I know that the chamber is doing that. I know that the commissioners have done that with a resolution. We need all of Western Pennsylvania and across the Commonwealth people to realize that this is bad for Pennsylvania, that it will do nothing to affect global climate change, and it is simply going to ruin our small towns and our fossil fuel industries.
All right, so the budget battle is really going to be something over the course of the next 6
Yes.
months, and that is going to be, it makes its way into the budget discussions when you get right down to it. What are some of the other things that we can look forward to?
Well, I think the hearings start on the 18th with the House Appropriations Committee, which I'm truly honored to be part of that committee. We're gonna have to dig down deep, understand, particularly in the realm of human resources, which is basically one half of the state's budget, and there's such a large nebulous organization, and I've expressed some of my concerns with statewide children and youth, and some of those things. Mental health is something big that we're going to be talking about, but we need to understand, why do you need this money? How are you spending this money? What are you doing to save money? It's all spend in the governor's budget. But what are we doing to give money back to the taxpayers? What are we doing to be more frugal with the taxpayer dollars? Or are we just throwing money at problems without real solutions? So I think that's part of the discussion that I'd like to have with a lot of these state departments. What are you doing with the money? How are you improving? What are your processes? And how are you being more fiscally responsible for the taxpayer dollar?
Mm-hmm. I'm looking. I was alerted to something coming in on a text message, but it did not get to me. So, and we're running out of time here. All of those things are part. We need an hour or so to talk about everything.
We'll have all this broken down. I'm going to be having my human services breakfast again this year. I believe that's in March. I'm happy to answer any questions that anyone has. Go to our website, repstruzzi.com, or Facebook, Rep Struzzi, Facebook /Rep Struzzi. We have a number of town hall meetings. We sent out postcards this week that everybody should be getting. So we'll have a town hall meetings coming up in March and April in Armagh, Blairsville, Penn Run, and here in Indiana, so people can have an opportunity to come out and speak with me directly about their issues and concerns. And of course, our offices are there for people as well. The office here on Philadelphia Street, the office at the Homer City Borough Building, and then down in Blairsville, we're open on Tuesdays and Wednesdays in Blairsville now. So there's plenty of opportunity for people to reach out to me to share their concerns. But I'm the voice of the people of Indiana County, and I take that very seriously.
Here is the question that came in through a text a couple of moments ago.
Yeah.
Unemployment is in Indiana County double the national average, well above the state average too. Our unemployment situation is getting worse over the course of the last year. What's the answer to that? How do we address that?
Well, I think we need to continue to try and provide necessary training to get people into jobs. I think there's a skills gap that we've been working on for a couple of years now. We have jobs here. I mean, Urban Outfitters is still looking to hire people. So I think there's maybe a disconnect between the job seekers and the jobs that are available. So I think we need to provide people with the training, the transportation, and the mechanisms to fill those jobs. I think it's something that perhaps we should have addressed a few years ago, and I think we're finally starting to do that now with our workforce development initiatives, with the tech center, and with the opportunities that we have. So I think it's a matter of aligning people with the jobs that are there.
So we've got a big pool of jobs, but the people who are supposed to be looking for them aren't jumping in.
Right, and I think we still have the drug issue. I'm really rolling up my sleeves recently and doing a lot of research, trying to understand the complexities of the addiction crisis. We saw overdose deaths almost double last year here in Indiana County, which is a big concern. And we still have the issue of people who can't pass a drug test to go to work. So there's a lot of issues that come with the unemployment numbers are unfortunate, but that's just one component of it. We have to ask the questions of why aren't people working when we know that Urban Outfitters needs 100 more employees. When I did a tour of Diamond Pharmaceuticals just the other week, and they could hire 100 people today. Yeah. So where is the disconnect when we have these jobs available yet people aren't working?
All right, very good. Well, that's a big, hard question to answer. Thanks so much for coming in.
Absolutely, Todd. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
It's like there's a lot more material to be covered, a lot more material to be covered, a lot more material